Comic Book Savant, episode 331.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets mine free. And also, I know that I don't.
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about The Walking Dead. Specifically, we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead, the Whisperer War, which is the second main event that has taken place in the Walking Dead comic book, the first being All Out War. This was a heavily publicized and advertised event that happened in the Walking Dead comic book that just recently completed and is now out in trade paperback. But before we get into that and the review of that 6-issue arc, just like to go over, as always, my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. Without their support, I couldn't do this. If you like this podcast and you're looking for a place to find more comic book related podcasts, the Comic Podcast Network is the best place to go. It is a group of comic book podcasters that cross promote one another, as well as we have this one communal site that you can go to if you're a fan of any of the one individual shows, and that you can go find more like-minded content through one portal, one neat little one-stop shop to find comic book related podcasting content. It started out with about less than 30 podcasters about, like 8 or 9 years ago. Now there are literally hundreds of different podcasts listed there. If you like a show like myself, which is a one person, one man, one mic type podcast, or one mic, one person podcast, because it is female podcasters out there. I know because I've met them. Then you can go there. You can find anything from that to big group ensemble roundtable podcasts to anything anywhere in between. You can find podcasts on individual publishers, teams, individual characters, individual themes. So you name it, it's probably a podcast related to it, a comic book related podcast that is related to it that you can find on the Comics Podcast Network. So again, if you like my show and you're looking for more comic book related podcast content, definitely stop by the Comics Podcast Network over at comicspodcast.com. Last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to this, to the sponsor of this episode and to every episode, which is InStockTrades.com. It's the best place you can go on the internet when you're just looking for collected editions, be it trade paperback, hardcovers, omnibus, Marvel Masterworks, Absolute Editions, you name it. They pretty much have it. They have one of the largest selections you're going to find anywhere on the internet when it comes to collected editions and trade paperbacks. If you're not familiar with the site and you haven't been there, they have on their front page, and they swap it out every week. And they have deals of the week, which you can get. Normally, their discounts run from 35%, 42%, up to 50% off for their deals of the week that's featured on the homepage. All those deals you see listed under deals of the week are 50% off. Right now, they have Hellblazer Trade Paperback Volume 1. This is the DC Rebirth. And it's the Poison Truth. It's the first 6 issues traded. That's 50% off, only $8.49. They currently have the Teen Titans by Jeff Johns trade paperback book 1, which is 50% off, $14.99. And I have to say, this is a great series. Jeff Johns had a really good run. Back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, around the time I started the show. With the Teen Titans, that was a really, really well received and was a really good run, solid run he did on that book. So I'm glad they're collecting that stuff now. Then we have Velvet Deluxe Edition hardcover. That's 50% off, only $24.99. That's a good deal. Wonder Woman in the Justice League of America trade paperback volume 1. We know this. We've seen a lot of content coming out recently with the build up for the Wonder Woman movie in June? I think the Wonder Woman movie comes out in June. Things are starting to ramp up. They're starting to collect a lot of her previous content that was hard to find or not put out digitally or not repackaged. So we're seeing a lot of this stuff hitting the shelves now, some hard to find and repackaged Wonder Woman material that might not have been in print in a long time. So it's cool to see that in the build up for the movie. So that's definitely something worth checking out. That's 50% off, only $12.49. And then last but not least, we have the X-Men Epic Collection trade paperback, Second Genesis. That's 50% off, only $19.99. And last but not least, the last deal of the week they have posted on the site is East of West, the Apocalypse Year 2 hardcover, variant edition cover. That is 50% off, only $24.99. So definitely you want to check that out. Again, if you're not familiar with it, if you're a U.S. customer, if you order $50 or more, you get free shipping within the U.S. That's only applicable if you're a U.S. customer. If you listen to the podcast and you happen to go to the site and you're not within the U.S., you still get all the great savings. They do have some of the most competitive and international shipping rates around, so you can still save a ton of money. You just don't get that extra bonus of ordering $50 or more and getting that free shipping, because that's only within the U.S. for U.S. customers. So you have to take that into consideration, but you still can save a ton of money. So it's still a good deal to check out. So definitely check them out if you have a chance. Let them know if you do have interactions with them that you heard about them here first on the Comic Books Savant podcast. It always helps me out. But now into the meat of the episode, which was what we're here to talk about, which is the Walking Dead comic book and the 6-issue series, or the event, the Whisperer War. Again, this is The Walking Dead. Publishers Image, Skybound, which is Robert Kirkman's imprint within Image. The book is written by Robert Kirkman. The artwork is done by Charlie Adler. The inker is Stefano, I hope I pronounced this right, Giordano. Then we have on the gray tones, we have Cliff Rathburn, letterer is Russ Wooten, and this covers issues 157 through 162 of the Walking Dead comic book. The trade paperback was released just roughly about a month ago now, 3 weeks or a month ago, which is Walking Dead Volume 27, the Whisperer War trade paperback, which I will put the links to in stock trades, as well as Comixology if you want to get it digitally, in the show notes. So you will see them on the website. If you go to comicbooksavant.com, I'll have the links built into the post on the for the episode there, for the links if you want to easily track this down to pick it up. The breakdown is as follows. The time has come. The forces are aligning. The war has begun. Has Rick brought about the demise of everything that he's built, or will he triumph once again? Know this: there will be a cost. And really the breakdown for this is I'm not going to do a spoiler review, because if you're interested, that you'll go check this out. Basically, the format of the Whisperer War mimics All Out War somewhat, far as it's the second main event that they really have publicized and put out there. I will have in the show notes as well when I previously reviewed All Out War. That was a 12-issue format that went over. It also went 6 months as well. They double shipped issues. So it was 12 issues in 6 months. Here, they reworked the format, I feel like, a little bit better, because I felt like All Out War shouldn't have been 12 issues. It should have been 6. Because things seemed like it was stretched real thin to go through the 12 issues, and they double shipped them, and to me it just didn't carry over the same amount of impact. I like the fact that they learned and probably took a lot from fan feedback and shortened the length of the issues, to the 6. It felt it felt paced a lot better than what All Out War did. I also think one of the biggest things here, we had the whole build up with the Whispers over almost, I want to say the last year of the Whispers being this valid threat to Rick and his group and everything he's built up in the world of The Walking Dead, between not just Alexandria, but with the Hilltop and the Kingdom as well. We've seen in this build-up a lot of different people were lost along the way. I don't want to get into spoilers on that because, if you're not reading The Walking Dead, hopefully I will entice you to go back and check that out, those issues. But this was the culmination of all that build-up over the past year to culminate into this Whisperer War. I feel like another thing that was really improved upon, it had a better flow. The writing had a better flow. Everything seemed super stretched out in All Out War, like I said, to accommodate 12 issues, where here it felt right. It felt, because in All Out War, it felt like 6 issues that were stretched to 12, and it felt like a lot of dead space, a lot of things that it just could have been trimmed, that they just really drew out long and longer to supplement or to justify having it 12 issues being double shipped. So again, like I said, that's as a reader, you want it to feel right and not, we've seen it so much, and it became, popular over the past decade or so, where, a lot of storylines that probably could have been told within 2 or 3 issues were stretched to be 6 issues, so they could have a trade that they could put out when that arc finished. And here it it felt like that Kirkman, like I said, learned from that previously and just said, we're going to make it 6 issues. And another thing too about it, last year, All Out War, it stretched the creative team thin because they were double publishing issues. And I think at points quality took a hit in the series as well. And this is a creative team that you're looking at, with Charlie Adler and Robert Kirkman. He's wrote every issue of the comic. Charlie Adler's been on since issue 7, and with this team, this creative team, and is one of the longest running that I can think of creative teams assembled in an ongoing monthly book that has this many issues under their belt. So quality for me, is definitely a huge a part of the immersive experience for me reading a comic. So when they do double ships or they, do different stunts like that, I feel like they're stunts, and I feel like it dings the overall quality of the book. So this actually felt more quality at points than All Out War, because you could tell that, they were stretching the creative team, thin, even though they normally work a lot of stuff in advance, and these books, because Kirkman is so busy, he doesn't just write Walking Dead. He has a lot of other properties, plus Walking Dead is a TV show that he, writes and produces, that, executive produces on. He oversees the Walking Dead is a huge property at this point, so his time is split. So, but I do appreciate they took their time with this, and it felt substantial as far as, like I said, not just with the storytelling, but also with the art as well. It didn't get sacrificed in order to sell a few more issues by trying to double ship or any of that. Like I said, I appreciate that being considered and taken into account this time. I think another thing that they learned from All Out War going into this event is we saw the vital characters that we wanted to see in insignificant roles. That was one thing that I complained about and talked about, not necessarily complained about, but disappointed me in All Out War, is that a lot of the major pieces and the major players were taken off the board and weren't really prominent in that series. They really were pushed to the background to kind of push forward a lot of cannon fodder type characters that we didn't care about losing, in these instances in the main event of All Out War. To whereas here we get to see characters like Maggie, Carl, Jesus, Michonne, Negan, Dwight, these guys were thrust in the forefront. These characters are cementing themselves more and more into the story as the story progresses, as major players were introduced. We've been introduced over the past year to Lydia, which is Alpha, the leader of the Whisperers' daughter that ran away and, has taken up with Carl and is Carl's age. And they've started this kind of makeshift on and on again relationship or romance or what have you. I really like seeing Carl grow more and come into his own as a character. And you can kind of see him being more established, maybe, going into the future, maybe as the future as the series. You're seeing, Rick is battle worn, and, he's lost a hand, his leg has been damaged, he's gone through a lot at this point. And even though he's not as old as he might look or it seems, he's definitely been through a lot at this point in the series. He's been through war, not just these two, but he's been through a lot of wars. If we go back through the Governor and all the different things that have happened over the course of this series, he's, I guess, because they even joke about it. I don't even know if he's 40 yet, but just all of the trauma and the fighting that he had to endure and the toll that it's taken on his body, you can, see at this point that, that it has taken a toll on him. And, he's potentially susceptible to being taken out at this point, probably more so than we've ever seen with Rick throughout this series at this point. He's more than just this guy on the front line, this battle leader. He's ascended, coming out of All Out War to where we're at now. He's slowly been the poster person for this phenomenal change of them slowly but surely trying to rebuild society. And with that, has he become soft, and can he do the things he used to do and be out there on the front line? I think it's a big what we've been seeing in the past year since All Out War is that how much the world has actually changed due to Rick's the nestle of the idea that we were revealed at the end of All Out War of how he wanted to rebuild society, and then they jump forward in time, and then you saw these things come to fruition. So it's a very interesting, time when it comes to Rick, because he's a very different Rick that we've known up to this point. In All Out War, he was on the front line fighting with everyone else. More so here now, time has passed, things have happened. He's changed in a lot of ways, and he's more vital as being that planner, the general, if you will, that are behind the scenes that's planning, than being on that front line. And then, not everyone liked everything that Rick has implemented. So then, as you grow in power, you can grow in enemies as well. So it's a very interesting dynamic in it. But I love where the book is definitely going, and seeing these different other characters around him and evolving in more prominent roles. So it's just not the Rick show anymore in The Walking Dead. It is just as much Maggie's story, it's just as much Carl's story, Michonne, Jesus, Lydia even. You have all these different perspectives. Dwight has become such a vital character, which was a character, in the beginning when he was introduced that I didn't care for at all. And he's become, one of my favorite characters, overall in the comic. He has become such a good character, such a vital character in the whole world of The Walking Dead, which has been a great thing to see. Again, without spoiling anything else, I think this is definitely a good read. If you've listened to the show for any more amount of time, I do things on a rating scale of a must-buy, good read, wait for the trade, or skip. And I have to say, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, because I said that I always say this when I reference anything in relation to The Walking Dead, it is a book that's not for everyone. The funniest thing is, for me not to be a horror fan, I love this book, and it's one of my favorite books out there that is being published. And I hate horror movies. I don't watch horror movies, horror TV shows outside of The Walking Dead. The one horror-related book I read monthly is The Walking Dead. The one TV show that I keep up with is Walking Dead. Anything horror, anything else horror, the remotely jump scare, anything like that, no, I don't watch it. Don't watch it, can't see it. Call me a wuss, a coward, whatever, just not my deal. Just never been a fan of horror. But, you know, this is more a psychological thriller to me than horror, because the horror is really been downplayed at this point, and we understand that the monsters in this world are not really the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead really refers to the people. That is the whole twist in the title and the name of the title of the book, is The Walking Dead has nothing to do with the walkers or the zombies. It has to do with the people themselves and them losing their humanity in the process of trying to survive in this world. It's been a theme and a dichotomy of everything that this story is built around. Is built around that one premise. But again, I give it a good read, which if you want to equate it to a numerical scale, that's around an 8 or a 7. I would probably say for me, this would rank as like a 7.5, 7.5 on a 10-point scale with this story. Again, if you're invested in The Walking Dead in this world, this would be for you. I recommend it as a good read. If you haven't read The Walking Dead up to this point, I don't know, jumping into this one particular story would be the best thing to do. If you could just pick up from here and go forward, because you just wouldn't know the significance of some players that you would see. So again, it wouldn't be for anyone. I wouldn't say this would be a good jumping on point. But if you're already a fan, or if you read The Walking Dead at some point and you wanted to jump back in, maybe you could. If you're familiar with the core group of characters, you could pick up and read this, and I think you would really enjoy it. I think one of the other downsides of this, or critique that I would have, is that overall as an event itself, it's good, but the aftermath and the buildup seems more substantial. And this was the same thing with All Out War as well, is that the event itself was fine and it was good to read. And I feel like this is definitely a step up from that, because in All Out War, I felt like the main characters that we wanted to see were downplayed and not spotlighted, where here they're handled way better. So if you're invested in the book and into the cast of characters, it's more payoff in this story, but even more is paid off the issues right after the events of the Whisperer War. So if you like this, stay tuned, because the next issues right after this are really good and really shows the impact of the events of the Whisperer War. So you definitely want to stay tuned if you do read this trade. Before I get into talking about the television show, because we had the season finale of The Walking Dead last night. I'm recording this Monday morning. I don't know if you guys have followed me. If you follow me on social media, you know, I basically had a meltdown last week. I was sitting down to record this exact same episode. I recorded it. I don't know. I was having all these technical glitches and problems. I was going to try to record it again right behind it. I just couldn't get myself together. It's just like I forgot that I was having it. You know, periodically. You know, if you've had your computer running, you know, sometimes they always recommend reinstall the operating system and do all that. I have a Mac. I hadn't done it in like 2 years. Computer was a little sluggish, so I said, okay, I'll wipe the computer, reinstall everything. I had done that. I hadn't gone back into GarageBand and like re-updated and put all my settings and all my stuff back in there. So I went to record cold, and it was just the total mess. And you know, I recorded the episode, but then it was all jumbled and messed up. I couldn't edit the way I wanted. Excuse me. And I was going to put it out, but it just was horrible. I was so frustrated. I wanted to throw it. If I could have, I probably would have tried to throw my computer out the window. I was so mad and just frustrated at that point. So I had to put the mic down, step away, and I posted, kind of venting, and the guys, you guys that follow me on social media were like, step back, wait till next week, try again next week. So I kind of did. So I kind of had a meltdown. So it allowed me the chance, because I pretty much forgot that the Walking Dead season finale was this weekend, so I had a chance to watch it last night live as it aired, and I said I might as well tack this on since this was a Walking Dead themed episode to begin with, and that was the plan, to talk about season 7 of The Walking Dead. I have to say this cast is, one of the stronger casts, out there on television on a comic book show. They really, we've 7 seasons in, Andrew Leakin does a great job as Rick, Chandler Riggs as Carl. Some people like him, some people don't. I feel like he has his moments, but we've watched him grow up on this show from a little kid to, to like a young man at this point. So I commend him for the job he's done with the character. Norman Reedus is Daryl, Melissa McBride is Carol, love her. Lauren Cohan as Maggie, really love her. Danny Guerrera as Michonne. Sonequa Martin Green, I'm going to talk about her in a minute, as Sasha. Josh McDermott as Eugene. Christian Serratos as Rosita. Elena Masterson as Tara, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. Just a phenomenal cast right there alone. This season has been interesting. They've, a lot of bad will was received coming on the showrunners, coming off of how they chose to handle the introduction of Negan and his impactful first interaction with the group. They dragged it out. They left it on a cliffhanger. They even dragged it out at the beginning of this season before really paying it off. And it's been a very up and down season. It had, by all means, not saying that it's been a bad season. I think, overall, despite the hiccups and different things that they've tried, I think the showrunners are running out of leeway and sorts with some of the tactics they use to kind of manipulate the crowd, manipulate us as viewers to titillate us and mess with us to kind of keep our interest in the show. I feel like that the leeway or the trust we had as viewers with them and how they're choosing to tell their stories have lessened, and some people, left the show because they did not like how they dealt with the season finale for season 6 going into season 7. I stayed on board. I feel, justified in doing it. I've enjoyed the show. Is the show like the top show on my list to watch week in and week out? No, it hasn't been this year, but I've kept up with it. I've watched it. I've still enjoyed it. That's why I haven't done, previous years I did, I reviewed as the season went along and talked about it in different, points. It's a 16 episode season, so I kind of just relegated it to let me talk about it. I've seen the season finale. I kept up with it so I can sit down here and put it on this episode and not have to go too in depth with it and just give you guys my thoughts on it. I think it was required viewing. I do must watch, required viewing, so on and so forth. If you listen to my TV talk episodes of shows, you'll understand my rating system. So this is similar to my comic book rating of a good read. It's equivalent of a good read. It's between like an 8 and a 7 on a numeric scale. I would say just like all the Whisperer War. This is about a 7.5. I think it was a pretty solid season overall. They had some hiccups along the way and a few episodes here and there. This is a huge moneymaker. They're trying to, at least get this show to 10 seasons. The season premiere of season 8 will be the 100th episode. That'll be back in October. I think they have some work to do to get this show back to the greatness that it once was at. But I think, they're trying things. This show's been running for a while now, and with this content, we had a huge gap in the beginning from where the show was starting in relation to where the comic books were, and just through different things, they've caught up very quickly. And they have to be careful going forward how they choose to navigate and change certain things to divert it from the comic, that it doesn't run into a Game of Thrones type situation, that they keep it diverged enough that they have some freedom to play around with some things and change different things, that it's not just a direct adaptation of what's coming out in the comics. And they've done a really good job. Certain things they've tried I didn't care for, and I've talked about it previous episodes before when I've talked about the Walking Dead TV show, and other things that I've liked that they've done. The season finale was really I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was one of the better episodes of the season. It was an extended episode. That was 90 minutes. I didn't know if it needed to be 90 minutes, and they did. And that was another thing that they kind of did this season. They, to me, overused the availability of extended episodes, and in most cases this season in particular, that it felt like they had extended episodes just to sell more ads, to make more money, because this show has extremely high viewership, and it wasn't in service of the actual story that was being told. Because these episodes that they did do, and they probably did like 4 or 5 of them, which is a lot considering it's only 16 episodes in a season for The Walking Dead, that it felt very bloated and cushioned to accommodate that. In all cases, I felt like this could have been condensed down. It didn't have to be, an extended, they did 10, 15, and then like 30, minutes. They didn't need to. Even last night's episode, though it was good, it didn't need to be 90 minutes. It really didn't. It could have been an hour if edited properly. And it was a great performance for Shaniqua Martin Green. I'm not going to get in any spoilers on that, but I'd say she gave a really good performance in this episode. She really was a standout for me. So I really enjoyed it. Again, required viewing, so it's about a 7.5 on a 10-point scale for me. Last but not least, I wanted to make an announcement because I hadn't talked about it in a little bit, but the contest for you just had to go to Facebook. It's not Facebook, but Instagram, and follow me on Instagram. And I polled people for the past month that had been following me. So over the weekend, I went through, picked a random winner, and the winner for the $25 gift certificate from InStockTrades.com is Ryan King. I've already contacted him via Instagram, and so that's being taken care of. So he won the $25 gift certificate. I'm going to have more contests in cooperation with InStock Trades coming up in the future. It wasn't the perfectly run contest. It's the first time I ran a contest in years, so I was a little rusty. I'll have it better planned and thought out next time when I do it. So I do apologize with the roughness around the edges with the whole contest thing. But like I said, it will be a lot better. It will be more refined next go around when I do one, which will probably be in a couple of months. So be on the lookout for that. As always, you can go to the website, comicbooksavant.com. You can follow me on Twitter at comicbooksavant, on Instagram at comicbooksavant as well. Also, I have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/comicbooksavant. Go to any one of those places on social media. Give me a follow. It means a lot. I appreciate it a lot. It gives you a way to communicate with me, and I can incorporate you guys more into the show. I want to do more things where I'm following your guys' lead on things you want me to talk about, things you want me to cover, things we can do in cooperation. If you tweet me, hit me up on Instagram, I can include you guys in the show and read your tweets and your Instagram posts and so forth. I'm getting a handle on the whole social media thing. Like I said, it was a big hurdle block because I am a tech nerd by nature. But I'm just not a social media person, so I'm still learning. I'm very active on Instagram, and I kind of let those posts go out. I fan those out across all, the different other media. But I'm very active. I've been very active over the past, month or so coming into this new year, I've been more and more active and getting more and more comfortable with being active on social media. So definitely give me a follow. Greatly appreciate it. I could, just keep supporting the show. Your word of mouth really helps keep the numbers up and keep me growing the show. It's still a lot of work to do. Yes, I know I'm still promising the YouTube content. The episodes are still going on YouTube. I'm trying to get over stage fright on being on camera. It's a different thing from being behind a mic, sitting in front of my computer by myself with no one watching me. And, I could be dressed in my PJs still and record this episode of then being in the mic. And you got to be prim and proper because, we got 4K and HD and you don't want to look crazy. And, I'm dealing with it. Bear with me. Video content will be coming. For that, it's, like I said, it's still, I'm trying to get over my camera shyness because I used to have mic shyness, but 331 episodes later, I do audio, I think decently, but video is a whole nother thing to tackle. So I'm getting over my fears. I'm working through my anxieties and my fears to bring you guys more compelling content. And more than just audio format as well. So be on the lookout for that. Again, I really appreciate you guys' support in your communication with me. It means a lot. It keeps me motivated. Thank you guys again. That's all I have for you guys this week. I will see you next week for another episode of Comic Book Savant. You guys take care and you have a good week. Bye.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this. And I know this. This I know. This I know.